was so extraordinary. And it happened when I was only a teenager at 14 years old. My mother, she was going to be getting divorced, and I had to have a cavity filled. And my dad was not giving her the money that he normally would to take me to my regular dentist. So a clinic opened up a couple minutes away from our home. And, my mother, she thought nothing of taking me to the dental clinic just to have a cavity filled. But this dentist, if he even was a real licensed dentist, I didn't notice any diplomas up on the wall. So he just gave me an overdose of the nitrous oxide gas, which completely cut off my oxygen supply. It stopped my heart. I had no pulse, and they were going to give up on CPR because, they just kept trying and could not get a pulse back. And during the time that CPR was being performed on me, my soul left my body, and it traveled through a long, dark, speeding tunnel. It seemed to go on for miles and miles and miles at like this such a quick speed that, I think I knew that somehow my body was left behind in the dental chair, and it was just my soul traveling through this long speeding tunnel. And I wasn't scared, it was just more like anticipating, what's going on and where is this tunnel going to lead me out to. So finally, at the end of the long speeding tunnel, it opens up into the brightest light where my 3 guardian angels were waiting for me. And they told me, they said I had an accident back at the dentist, and they said they were sent to wait for me in the light, and they told me that I was safe with them in heaven, and they really wanted me to stay with them. But I kept saying, I have to go back. My mom really needs me because, I was my mother's only daughter. I have 2 older brothers, but my mother only wanted a girl, and she kept going until she finally had me. So I just felt like she wouldn't be able to survive if she lost her only daughter, and, just so suddenly without so much as a goodbye, love you, So I kept saying, I have to go back. My mom really needs me. So my guardian angels said they gave me a choice to stay in heaven or return to my life with an important purpose. They told me to think very carefully because they said you will only get this one chance to stay here in heaven, or you will live a very long life back on earth. They said it's going to be very challenging in exchange for being sent back to my life, but I would be sent back with an important purpose. And they said, before you make up your mind, they said, there's something that we want to show you. And all of a sudden, I'm watching my own funeral. What it would be like if I stayed in heaven and didn't go back to my life. And everyone was at my funeral, my family, friends, teachers, neighbors. And of course, everybody was sad, but the only one who was beyond inconsolable was my mother. It was a closed casket, but she was throwing herself on top of my casket. She was screaming, crying, pleading with me, Elissa, my baby, don't leave me. I love you. Come back to me, Elissa. And so I said to my guardian angels, you see, I have to go back. My mom really needs me. And they said, of course, your mother will be very hurt. They said, but in time, she'd be a lot better than she was seeing her at my funeral. So, and they said, your relationship is going to be not what you think. It's not going to be a bed of roses. It's going to be very turbulent, but you will always have a special bond and be able to know what the other one is thinking and finish each other's sentences. And they said, think very carefully because you will be so much happier if you stay here in heaven with us. And, it was like so peaceful and beautiful, and they're promising me eternal paradise and bliss in heaven with them. So every time that they would promise me, eternal peace and happiness, there was a big, tall, white door, and they said if you pass through this door, then there is no turning back. You have to stay here with us. They said you will be so amazed at what is behind this door, so much more of glorious heaven and who is behind it. So every time that they would say that to me, I would say, okay, I think I'll stay. And I would inch closer towards the door. But then I would see my mom flinging herself on top of my casket again, begging, screaming, Elissa, don't leave me. I love you. Come back to me. Then I would inch away from the door, and I was crying. I said, I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden I hear footsteps, and God is standing right in front of me. I am face to face with God, our Heavenly Father, creator of the universe. And God says to me, "What's the matter, my child? Why are you crying? Why are you so upset?" And I said, "I have to go back. My mom really needs me." As soon as I said that, God said to me, "I understand." And he turned to my 3 guardian angels. He said, "Send her back immediately." And he said to me, "But I'm sending you back with an important purpose." He said, "Once your soul's back in your body, you will not remember what that full purpose is until the time is right." He said, because I was much too young at only 14 to handle such a big responsibility, being God's messenger. So I said, "I understand." And I said to my 3 guardian angels, I said, "I hope you're not upset for me not choosing, to stay here with you in heaven." And they laughed. They said, "No, of course not." They said, "You're going back with an important purpose." And they said, "We're going to be watching over you your whole life. And when your time is up again," they said, "we'll be waiting for you in the light again." And they did say that I was going to go through something very difficult, that I didn't think that I was going to be able to survive it. And they said, "But you will survive it because we're going to be watching over you to make sure you get through it." And they said to me, "Whenever you're feeling lonely, you're going to feel something stroking your hair." And they said, "That's going to be us comforting you." And sure enough, this was all true, everything that they said to me. So there's a little more that went on in heaven that I'm going to say from my book, Hope from Heaven, because I just don't want to say everything for the people who want to read it. It's like, would you go to a movie if you knew everything and the ending? So I'll just save, the rest for the book. But so I hugged God and my 3 guardian angels. And as my soul was going back through that long, dark, speeding tunnel, just before my soul was completely back in my body, I heard and I saw everything going on in the dental clinic. The dentist was frantic because the hygienist said there's still no pulse. And the dentist was frantic and he was screaming, crying, oh my God, this never happened before. Don't give up. We have to get her back. She's only 14. Keep trying." So the hygienist, I felt the 3 thrusts on my chest and the 3 breaths in my mouth. And then maybe a couple seconds later, I heard the hygienist say, "There's a pulse now. We have her back." And the dentist screamed, "Thank God." And I laughed to myself and I said, "I did just thank God personally, literally." So I was in a daze, and I said, "What just happened? I was just in heaven. I was with God." And the dentist said, "I believe it." He said, "You were gone." He said, "You had no pulse. We almost couldn't get you back." He said, "Do you forgive me?" And I knew it was an accident, and it was so amazing just standing before God in heaven. So I said, yes, that I forgive him. And he couldn't finish filling the cavity, of course. He just said to my mother, he said something went wrong with the nitrous oxide. I couldn't do her cavity. Take her home, and if she doesn't feel well, take her to the emergency room. And, he didn't tell my mother that I actually died because I know he was afraid of losing his license, of course. So I didn't go to the hospital, but I did not feel well for the rest of the day. And I know the reason why he told my mother, to take me to the emergency room if I didn't feel well, because a couple of years later, my mom and I were watching on the news that a 17-year-old girl died the same way, having a cavity filled, and they gave her an overdose of the nitrous oxide. They were able to revive her too, but then when she went home in the morning, she was dead, So that's why he said that. And my uncle was the biggest dentist in Westchester, and he said to me, I never use nitrous oxide in my practice. That stuff kills people. And I was like, I know, it killed me, So I blocked it out for several years because I just wanted to go on living my life, as a normal teenager. I just wasn't ready to, it was such a powerful thing. I just needed a long time to really, come to terms with it myself. But then, and I didn't even tell my mother about it until I saw that on the news with her. And then I actually did tell her what happened to me. And I said, I chose to come back to my life for you. And my mom said, thank God, And then a couple of years after that, in my early 20s, I did go through that terrible thing that I was warned about from my guardian angels. And after I went through that, I started to do soul searching within myself. And I said, now I'm ready to really, dig into why that happened to me. Am I the only person in the world who actually did come face to face with God? And when I did research it, I couldn't find anybody else who did actually meet God like I did. I read other near-death experiences where they said maybe they met Jesus, and they said maybe, they felt God's light and love and his energy, but they never actually came face to face with him. I did, in human form. He was in human form. And then when my beloved boyfriend, Todd Irvin, who was a famous supermodel, when he passed away 2 weeks after he died, because I was completely heartbroken, I felt like I was going to die of a broken heart. I literally felt my body shutting down. So 2 weeks after Todd died, God's Spirit came down to me and healed me completely. It was a whirling mist with light in the center, and it kept whirling down closer and closer to me. I was in my bed, so it started, I saw up on my ceiling the whirling mist with the light in the center, and it was whirling down, and as soon as it was close enough to me, I saw two arms extend with all this light radiating down throughout both arms. And this is more extraordinary than when I stood before God in heaven, because the two arms with the light, it wrapped around me and it lifted my back up. And all of that light and love and healing energy was pulsating all into me, where I never felt anything like that in my entire life. And then I was complete, and maybe it was for a minute, and then it just, the whirling mist with the light just disappeared. In the morning, I jump out of bed. I am completely healed. My heart was not broken anymore. I couldn't believe it. I went to speak to a priest and a rabbi because I said, wasn't that my beloved boyfriend, Todd's spirit, who came and healed me? And they both said, no, that could only have been God's spirit, because only God can heal you completely. So that was just, I have never felt anything like that in my entire life. And I knew then, okay, I'm healed. I can go on now. And then I can help heal others, with my fascinating, story, what happened to me. And then I wrote my book, Hope from Heaven, and I got it published, because that way I'm able to reach out to everybody. And I do podcasts also to let people know that when your loved ones die, you just leave your body behind physically. Spiritually, you are still alive. You're in another dimension. Of course, you're in heaven, but our loved ones, they are always with us. They're loving us, guiding us, and protecting us from heaven. And they don't want us to be so sad and grieving them. They actually want us to celebrate them because they're the happiest that they have ever been in heaven. You know, my mom passed away last year, and she came to me in a visitation dream, and she said, Elissa, don't be so sad because I'm the happiest that I have ever been. And she was no longer in her old, sick, tired, suffering body. She was young, and she was beaming. She was glowing, you know. She was so happy that when I woke up, that was the last time I cried that she died, you know, because she came to me a week after she died in that dream. And I had been crying every day prior to that visitation dream. So it's so important that everybody knows that true love never dies. It is endless, you know, and, you know, our soul, it's in an earthly body living, you know, our soul's in a physical body living an earthly experience. And then, you know, when our time is up here, our soul just leaves the body behind and it goes back to where we came from, you know, that original source of energy in heaven. And it's just a higher consciousness, you know, a higher dimension. So we're in the 3D, they're in the 5D, but we still communicate spiritually all the time. And people say to me, but, you know, what if, like, I don't dream about my loved ones? They don't come to me in visitation dreams. So, but I say, but there's all different kinds of ways that our loved ones come to us to communicate with us spiritually. And birds are messengers of spirit. And if you go to my YouTube channel at Elissa Hope 4524, you'll see some amazing videos. One is a visit from my deceased twin flame, and it's my beloved deceased boyfriend, Todd Irvin. He came to me. You'll see the angel on my grass going into the water, and all of these birds, they're circling in a frenzy all around, picking up on the angel energy. It's just so incredible. Birds really are messengers of spirit. And then when my boyfriend passed away, he died in January, and his birthday is August 31st. So his first birthday that he was in heaven, I was thinking, I wish that Todd was here with me physically, you know, to celebrate his birthday with him. As soon as I thought that, there was a loud boom, a loud crash. And when I looked, a beautiful big kingfisher belted bird slammed into my patio door. And I mean, sadly it died, but I knew that it was a message from Todd in heaven. And I Googled it, and it said very often on the when our loved ones pass away, they come to us on their birthday in the form of a bird, and it'll hit your window. And it will die, and it's our loved one from heaven letting us know that they're still always with us spiritually. So I also, you know, I videoed that, and I took pictures, and I mean, it's just all so comforting to know that our loved ones, they're still with us. So, you know, do you have any questions?
Yeah, that's so beautiful, Elissa, and so many things that I want to follow up on. But I think what I wanted to get into first was, you know, this duality that we are basically raised and told that when somebody dies, it's a sad thing and we need to be grieving.
Right.
And when we look at NDEs, when we look at your experience, it's actually, we understand it's not a sad thing when somebody passes on.
Right.
They're leaving behind the pain, the suffering, the physical body, but they're much better. However, when you love somebody, just like, you know, in the case of your boyfriend, in the case of your mother, there's still an element of loss because you still cannot have the same relationship that you had
Right.
previously.
Right.
So how do you then reconcile, on the one hand, the happiness that they are in a better place and
Right.
everything is perfect for them and they're just feeling love all the time, with the sadness
Right.
that they're not here with you?
I know, exactly. Well, you have to feel that you love them so much to let them go because, you want what's best for them. And if they were suffering like a long terminal illness, you wouldn't want them to be suffering any longer, And I'll give you another example. When my mom at the end of her life, she was suffering, and it was painful for me to see how she was suffering. So, I whispered in her ear, I said, Mom, when you've had enough suffering, I said, it's okay to let go. I said, go towards the light, and she understood, and she did. And then when she did die, I said, I loved her enough to let her go. And this is incredible. She heard me say that, because then a little later on, I went in my car. I had to go into town and pick up something, and I turn on the radio, and the song just comes on the radio, Let Her Go. And I knew it was my mom, because I said I loved her enough to let her go. And then you'll get chills. So I come home a couple hours later, I go in my house and I turn on the radio to it. It's a different radio station. And what song is just coming on the radio? Let Her Go. That I screamed out loud. I was like, Mom, it's you. I know it's you, So they are still with us. So you just, I say that Todd and my mother, I am closer with them now spiritually than I was with them when they were here physically. So if you are spiritual and you tap into your spirituality, you're going to see this all in a whole different light, and it's actually, I'm telling you, more beautiful, the relationship spiritually with them, than when they were here physically. So you just you have to clear all of your negative energy, because they can come to you a lot more if you're not dealing with that negative energy, So I always say, pray to God and ask Him to have your loved ones communicate with you spiritually. And if you have a close relationship with God, you pray to Him for divine awareness, authentic power, peace, clarity, love, and purpose. You're going to see everything in a different way. And just that heaviness, that sadness, it's going to change, and you're going to become like this whole enlightened spiritual being. Because that's really what we are. We're spiritual beings living this earthly, experience. And I always say life is just a moment of eternity,
Yeah.
And we're all going to die one day. So we need to really, make them proud of us. You cherish their memory, and you keep their memory alive by honoring them and making, do something like special that that would make them so proud of you. And even like that happened to me with my mom when that song came on the radio. I'm sure, has that ever happened to you? A special song comes on at a certain time, or on your anniversary, with your loved one, because a lot of people say that to me. So you really and I get number signs all the time. And I did not know that my boyfriend Todd had passed away yet. When he came to me in a visitation dream, and he held me, he told me he loves me, he will always be with me. And then I woke up and found out he died. So at first, of course, I was completely shocked and devastated, and I collapsed. And I said, But he just came to me in a dream and was holding me, telling me he loves me and will always be with me. So I said, even though he's in heaven, he is still here with me spiritually, And then getting back to my purpose, when it was revealed to me, it was fully revealed to me on the morning of Todd's memorial service. And this is so incredible. I wake up the morning of his memorial service and I look out my window. Now, this is like mind-blowing. Straight in front of me, and it's not like they were just parked there waiting for me to get up. They were still slowly moving. So what's the odds? There were a gorgeous pair of swans gently floating together right before my very eyes. And in the 17 years that I'm living here, there has never been one swan in the water. We get seagulls, geese, never a swan. So I knew this is a sign from Todd. So I run outside and my grass is all wet. My house slippers are all wet. I'm in my pajamas. I don't care. I run down to the water and I'm yelling, Todd, wait, because I just knew it's him. So when I get down to the water, the swans are still gently floating together. When they're almost out of my sight, they turn towards me, their necks entwine, and their bills touch, kissing. Can you imagine what a breathtakingly beautiful sight that is? Took my breath away. So I run back in my house because I know there's a message for me. I Google, what does a pair of swans mean spiritually? Sure enough, it comes up that a swan are the twin flame spirit animal, and they represent the eternal love of oneness between two beings. And twin flames are one soul that was split into two bodies and share the same consciousness. And they're sent here in their last lifetime when their soul's very advanced, and they're sent here as a light worker to raise the vibration of love and energy throughout the world. So that was my full purpose, that I knew not only am I God's messenger, but I'm a light worker to raise the vibration of love and energy throughout the world. And I just thought it was so fascinating because Todd and I, when he was alive, we would say we're soulmates. We didn't know what twin flames were. So I thought it was so incredible to know that Todd and I were twin flames, one soul that was split into two bodies, shared the same consciousness, that our soul has been together from the moment of creation. So we're really not separated, And the way that Todd and I met, they say very often you dream about your twin flame years before you ever meet, and you will get chills from this. I only saw one picture of Todd when I was a teenager, when I was 16 years old. Todd was a supermodel then, and so I saw a picture of him in a magazine. And as soon as I saw this picture of him, I declared him my Prince Charming because he looked a lot in that picture like the prince from Cinderella, So it was like more of a fairy tale to me, like a fantasy saying, he's my Prince Charming. We're going to be together one day. But I don't think I really thought that was going to happen. But then sure enough, years later, we did meet. My fairy tale came true and we fell deeply in love. We were both separated, going to get divorced to get married when he suddenly died. But so, as I said, twin flames, you often dream about your twin flame years before you meet. So after I saw that picture of Todd, that one picture where he was like 25 years old in that picture, I kept having this reoccurring dream throughout my life until I met him. But in my dream, he was the age that he was when I met him, and he was 62 years old when I met him. So he looked nothing like that one picture I saw of him when he was only 24, 25. So in the dream, he's waiting to marry me at the altar, and my mother is walking me down the aisle, I'm in my wedding dress, she's walking me down the aisle. And as soon as we get to the end of the aisle, Todd puts his hand out to take my hand. And when I reach my hand out to take Todd's hand, I always would wake up from that dream. So I would say, who is this man waiting to marry me, you know? And then as soon as I met Todd, 34 years later, I said, oh my gosh, that was you, you know, in my dream. I couldn't believe it. So it's been like such a fascinating journey, you know, of Todd and me and our twin flame union, you know, and he's just guiding me from heaven to help me complete our twin flames, you know, mission together. And once my time is up here, our soul, you know, will merge back together as one in heaven, where we'll be one with God for all of eternity. So that's what keeps me going here, you know. And I just, like, now for me, it's all about giving back. So, because like it's been so incredible, my journey here through life, that I just want to do what God sent me back here to do, to help others to heal spiritually. So for me to know that one life has breathed easier because of you, that is purpose, you know, and my purpose. So I always tell everybody, every single day, try and do something kind, you know, do a good deed. Even if it's just like holding the door open for somebody, or, you know, donating to your favorite charity. I'm the biggest animal lover, and all of the proceeds, all the royalties from my book goes towards animal rescue. And my mission is to expand a good no-kill animal shelter. And I want everybody to know that our pets, they're in heaven too, and we reunite with them. And how I know that for a fact is that on my beautiful daughter Raphaela's 16th birthday, Todd came to me in a visitation dream with my childhood dog, Shag. And Todd said, look who I have here with me. Look who is here to see you. And it was Shag. And he was running around circles, healthy again. He was so excited, you know, to see me. And I just woke up so elated, you know, and that they came to me on my daughter's 16th birthday, I just thought was so special too. So we all reunite with our pets in heaven, and they're just so beautiful. I get a lot of messages from people on my contact form on my author website, and so many messages are just that they're so comforted knowing that they will be with their precious beloved pets in heaven again. You know, I think some people miss their pets more than, you know, even people in heaven, because they give us such unconditional love. And if you when you spell dog backwards, you know, it's God, you know, so it's just really so beautiful. And that's why my mission is to expand a good no-kill animal shelter. Do you have any pets?
No, but this is the year where I will get a dog. I've been wanting one for many, many years, but I've always figured I don't know if I can handle the responsibility. Would I be enough at home? And finally, I decided I've been wanting and yearning for it for so long that,
Did you ever have a dog before, or it's your first?
No, it will be my first, because growing up, my mom, the most amazing human ever, but she's very scared of animals, any kind of animals, cats, dogs, any little thing, even if they're cute and cuddly, but she's terrified. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, it's funny. My mother was the same way. She was so afraid of dogs too. But then my dad, you know, this was before they got divorced, on Valentine's Day, he surprised us with a dog, my precious dog, who came to me in that visitation dream with Todd. So the first day that my dad brought him home, my mother was like, oh, no, you know, she was so afraid. But then that night, Shag, my beloved dog, and he was a pretty big dog, a German short-haired pointer, he jumped in the bed and he curled up next to my mother and he kissed her, you know, on the cheek. And the rest is history. My mother fell so in love with that dog. You know, she was like, she couldn't believe she was ever afraid of a dog. And she became the biggest animal lover then, too. So you will see, Sabrina, it's going to be a fur baby. You'll say, I don't know how I ever lived without one before. They just give you so much unconditional love, and they're funny, you know, and they're just so darling. So you'll see, and rescue one from like an animal shelter, you know, and then you'll feel like who rescued who, you know.
Yeah.
They're just so special. I can't wait until you get one. You'll see.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. I think it's been a long time coming, and I think with my mom as well, I do think that once she spends more time with the dog and you know, I will definitely not get a dog that's, I think, maybe a bit too aggressive or so, because that wouldn't fit very well with my personality either.
Right.
So
right. Yes. I also had a miniature dachshund, Frankie. Oh, he was the biggest little lover boy. That's all he wanted to do, was just like give you a million kisses on your face. You know, he was so cute. He would ride in the car. I was driving. My mom would be in the passenger seat, and he would get up on her shoulders and drape his body around her, and just so he could get to her cheek, to kiss up her cheek, you know. And I received beautiful signs from Frankie too in heaven. So they're just so amazing. And anyone who has, like, is going through now the grief of having lost a loved one, dogs and cats are wonderful too. I happen to have a cat now who thinks he's a dog. You know, he acts like a dog. But they're wonderful therapy pets. So anyone who is grieving the loss of a loved one now, you know, if you don't have a pet, you should get one, because they truly will comfort you. When my Todd died and when my mom died, who was right by my side the whole entire time was my cat. Is my cat Simba, and you know, he's called a Dwelf. It's a Sphinx hybrid, so he's like an exotic breed, and he's just so wonderful. You know, he sleeps underneath the covers with me, and he lets me. I walk around cradling him like a baby. You know, so cats, and when they purr, it's very comforting. It like lowers your blood pressure. That just hearing that purr, you know. So I love dogs and cats. I'm the biggest animal lover. I see the beauty in all animals, and I feed the wildlife where I live. Get a lot of deer, and a baby fox will come to my back door, you know, and I just see the beauty in all animals. So I always tell everyone, be kind to animals, you know.
That's so important. And I think we always see the kindness of a person or the true nature of a person by how they treat animals, and next to that, people that are maybe serving them, or you know, people that are in service position around you, and the way you treat those, I think, tells you a lot about a person.
Yes, I don't know how anybody could be anything other than kind to them, because they give such unconditional love, you know. I even helped a deer that was injured where I live, you know, and I looked like right into the deer's eyes, and I mean, they're so soulful, you know. I say that animals are God's gift to the world. I
definitely think that. Yeah. If I think of how much happiness I get when I play with a dog, or just, absolutely.
Yeah. Get a little dog. Your mom, she won't be afraid of a little dog. You know, don't bring a pit bull into the family, but like a little dog. You know, poodles are very smart, and they're supposed to be like one of the smartest breeds, you know. Or even I don't think your mom would be afraid of a little chihuahua, right? They're the tiniest breed. Yeah. Just get one with a good temperament. You know, ask at the shelter, and say you need a very gentle, calm, nice dog.
Yeah, for sure. And luckily, the guy that I'm seeing, he's he's developing a platform for dogs, and it's just like a brand of dog food. So he has had dogs for a long time. So it's kind of nice that I have that extra support should our relationship last until then. But
yeah. And you don't have any children, right? So
no.
It'll really be a fur baby. Oh my gosh, yeah.
It will,
Just give them out. I don't know if you know this. I'm sure your boyfriend knows. Don't give them any chocolate, grapes, raisins, or onions. That's all toxic. They could die from it.
I knew about chocolate, but yeah.
Yeah, raisins, grapes, onions, and no skin on chicken and no chicken bones because the bones splinter inside them. Yeah. So do you want to get back to my near-death experience? I could talk about dogs, cats all day long.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned you were told that something would happen, something not very happy, and you've mentioned going through that experience in your 20s. So I wanted to ask if you wanted to share what had happened and how you moved through it. But also I wanted to know if you've ever regretted your decision to come back, and if there was ever a time where you thought, I should have stayed because I don't see how I'm getting out of this.
Right. Yes, of course. I'm only human, so of course I go through my ups and downs, So yes, there was that terrible thing that I went through. I'll save that for the book. But I definitely then, I said, I was so peaceful in heaven. Why did I come back here, And so, but, when I did all my soul searching, then it helps me, it gives me the strength that I need to keep going. And now I wouldn't change anything that I went through because I'm in such a good place within myself now spiritually. And when God's Spirit came and healed me 2 weeks after Todd died, it made me like the strongest that I've ever been. So now, there's nothing that I can't go through that would bring me back to that point of saying, like, why did I come back here? Because I do know why I came back here, to try and make heaven a place on earth. So I think, now that my book is out, I'm doing this podcast, I just feel really good about why I'm here now. And I'm just happy I take every day and live it to the fullest extent now. And, I know life is just a moment of eternity. And before I know it, my time will be up again. So, but when I did feel that way, that was like when I was in my 20s, so I think everybody needs to always see the glass as half full, not empty, right? And that you always can turn your pain into purpose and turn tragedy into triumph, right? And I really feel that that's the best way I can leave off is to turn your pain into purpose and just always think positive, not negative, because I think a lot of people do that. And also to always practice self-love, because when we are grieving so deeply, I feel like we also tend to lose sight about, ourself, right? That you need to then just really practice self-love, do something, kind for yourself, something special. And every day always take some time out for yourself, to exercise. I swim a lot and it's so good for body, minds, and spirit. And always be humble and kind. I think that really all says it all, right? Do you have any other questions? And just know that true love never dies. It is endless.
That's so important and such wise words, Elissa. Tell me, how can people connect with your work? And you've mentioned your book as well. Could you tell us what the name of it is and where can we find it?
Sure. I think I said it a couple times already, but I'll say it again. It's Hope from Heaven. And you can order it on Amazon. It was the #1 new release in near-death experience books. And also on my author website at elissahope.com. And there's a link to Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I always love to hear from my readers. There's, the contact form and my email address. And also check out my YouTube channel at Elissa Hope 4524.